All right, so Alyssa,
Yeah.
for your summer reading, you have decided to read Girl Stolen by April Henry. We're going to read chapter 1 today, and we're going to look at generating questions. We're also going to focus on summary and prediction, and we're going to work on picking an important passage and then personally responding to what we've read. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So the way we're going to record these things are on your reading response journal. So you're going to do your summary and prediction in this first box. We're not going to record our questions and answers here. We're going to record an important passage. We're not going to write it down, but we're going to write parts of it down and what page number we find it on. And then your personal response is going to be written here. Okay? We're going to move on to asking questions, and I have some question starters for you. So that way it'll help you generate your question based on the data that you find in the text. You're going to do 3 level 1 questions. And then when we get to chapter 2, we're going to do 2 level 2 questions and a level 3 question. I just want to bring that up because chapter 1 is only 2.5 pages long, and the level 2 and 3 questions are a bit more intense, and you're going to need more pages to do those questions, okay?
Okay.
All right. So a level 1 question, I want you to think about this while you're reading the text. A level 1 question is a right there question. The answers are explicitly stated in the text, so you're going to read the passage. You're going to locate a fact that is a who, what, where, when, why, or how. You're going to turn that fact into a question. You're going to check that the answer is found in one place, word for word in the text. Okay? All right. So, there's 2 things that you're going to be looking for while you read. You're going to be looking for facts that we can turn into questions, and you're going to be looking for an important passage that we can write down. Okay? All right. So, I'm going to have you read chapter 1 to me slowly.
Cheyenne heard the car door open. She didn't move from where she lay and curled up in the back seat, resting on her bent arm despite the blanket that covered her. Cheyenne was shivering. She had begged her stepmom to leave the keys in the car so she could turn on the heat if she got cold. After some back and forthing, Danielle had agreed, and that had been only 5 minutes ago. And here she was, back already. Maybe the doctor had phoned in the prescription and Danielle hadn't had to wait for it to be filled. Now the door slammed, the SUV rocking a little as weight settled into the driver's seat. The engine started, the emergency brake clunked as it was released, the car jerked into reverse. It was 1,000 little things that Cheyenne knew something was wrong.
It was 1,000 little things that
told Cheyenne something was wrong. Even the way the door closed hadn't sounded right. Too fast and too hard for Danielle. Her breathing was all wrong too, sped up and harsh. Cheyenne sniffed the smell of cigarettes, but Danielle didn't smoke, and as a nurse couldn't stand anyone who did. There was no way the person driving the car was her stepmom. But why would someone else have gotten in the car? It was a Cadillac Escalade. It wasn't likely someone had just gotten confused and thought it was their car. Then she remembered the keys. Someone was stealing the car. Cheyenne was pretty sure they didn't know she was in it. She froze, wondering how much the blanket covered her. She couldn't feel it on the top of her head. Cheyenne felt like a mouse she had seen in the kitchen one time, when she turned on the light before school, caught in the middle of the floor. It had stood, shot still. Like maybe she wouldn't notice it if it didn't move. But it hadn't worked for the mouse, and now it didn't work for Cheyenne. She must have made some small sound, or maybe the thief had looked back to see if someone was following, and then realized the shape that was underneath the blanket. A swear word. A guy's voice. She was already halfway known that it was a guy. The way sometimes she just knew things. Who the hell are you? His voice broke in surprise. What are you doing in Daniel's car? Their words collided and tangled, both of them speaking too fast, almost yelling. Sitting up, she scrambled back against the door, the one furthest from him. Stop our car and get out. No, he shouted, and the engine surged as he drove faster. Cheyenne realized that she was being kidnapped. She couldn't see the guy who was kidnapping her or where they were going, because for the last 3 years Cheyenne had been blind.
Okay. So, when you were reading that, what was an important passage that stood out to you, and why?
It says too fast or too hard. 1,000 little things told Cheyenne that something was wrong. Even the way the door closed, it hadn't sounded right. Too fast, too hard for Danielle. The breathing was all wrong too, sped up and harsh. Cheyenne sniffed, smelled cigarettes. Danielle didn't smoke, was a nurse, and couldn't stand anyone who did. The person driving the car was not her stepmom.
Okay. And why was that important?
Because it tells you that she's being kidnapped and that it's not who she thinks it is.
Okay. Because it tells you she was being kidnapped and it wasn't her mom?
Yeah.
Or her stepmom? Okay. So we're going to start with it was, and then we're going to do this little shortcut. And we're going to hit a dot, dot, dot. That way we don't have to write out all the words. And then at the end, you're going to put, there was no way the person driving the car was her stepmom.
There was no way.
So that should be a capital I.
Yeah, but still.
And you're going to have quotations on it.
I know, but that still makes no sense.
It was, and then dot, dot, dots to say that there's more words in there. And then you can put her stepmom. Quotes. And then you're going to put page 1 to 2. Because that goes from page 1 to page 2. And then you're going to write 2 sentences as to why that was important. And you already told me, so now you just get to write it. Great job. All right. Now we're going to talk about summarizing. So how would you like to summarize this 2.5 pages? Could you summarize it in 3 sentences using some first, next, then, some of those linking words or transition words? Okay, so can you read me your summary?
First, Cheyenne was left alone in the car with the keys. Next, the person in the car drove away. Next, the person got in the car, and then they drove away.
Okay. And what's your prediction? What do you think is going to happen in chapter 2?
He's not going to let her go.
He's not going to let her go? Okay. So go ahead and write that down. He's not going to let her go. And how did you feel while you were reading this? What were your emotions like when you were reading this chapter?
Cheyenne didn't know what was going on.
Right, Cheyenne didn't know what was going on, but what about you? When you were reading it, did you feel your heart speed up? Did you get anxious at all? Were you scared for Cheyenne?
Kind of.
Kind of. I was. I mean, think about it. You're a little girl in the back seat. At this point, we don't know how old Cheyenne is. We know that she's blind, so you can't see anything, but you know that that's not who's supposed to be in the car, and they're driving away with you, and they refuse to pull over. So, what was your response to this? So, how did you feel when you were reading? Were you bored? Did you get into it? Did you not like it? Did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you liked the story. Did it scare you at all? No? You didn't feel scared for Cheyenne?
No.
How did you feel for Cheyenne? Okay. So I need at least 3 sentences. When I read the chapter, I felt I can relate to. Can you relate to Cheyenne?
No.
Did you feel confused about anything?
No.
You want to know why the guy stole the car? Yes? No? Does it remind you of something? Or do you want to ask the author or a character a question?
No.
Okay. So come up with something. You can just tell me how you felt. You don't have to write it down. I know. So, how did you feel reading this chapter, please?
I don't know.
Well, I know I felt a little scared for Cheyenne. And a little disoriented. Could you, not being able to see? I would ask her, I want to know how Cheyenne ended up blind 3 years ago. I want to know, does she not like her stepmom? Is that why she didn't want to go inside? Was Cheyenne angry about something and so she decided to stay in the car? I want to know why she stayed in the car. I want to know why the guy stole the car. I have lots of questions. Okay. Nothing? Alright. So, let's move on. We have 3 level 1 questions. Can we at least do one? I said at the very beginning we were going to do level 1 but not level 2 and 3. So, what is one question that you can ask given the information that's in chapter 1?
What did Cheyenne have over her when she was in the car?
There you go. And what page?
2.
It says it in page 1 and 2. Okay. Alright, so on page 2, wondering how much the blanket covered her. So, the blanket would be the answer. And it says she wondered how much the blanket covered her. And then your question was, what covered Cheyenne? In the back seat, right? Okay. So another question you could ask would be how long Cheyenne was blind. And on page 3, it tells you she was blind for 3 years. Okay. We're going to go ahead and stop right there. What did you learn from this activity? Why do you think we're doing this?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you think we're trying to make you think a little bit deeper about what you're reading?
I don't know.
Because if you have to tell me something that's important about it, why you think it's important, how you're relating to it, what this chapter was about, and then what you think is going to happen next? Do you think you might think about it a little bit more than if you were just reading through it? Yeah. Okay. How did you feel about this activity? Was this something that you want to continue doing?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because I don't like it.
Okay, what don't you like about it? Did it make you feel uncomfortable?
I prefer to do read.
Okay. Well, if you just read, how do we check to know if you understand what you're reading?
AR.
AR? You just take a test? Okay. Alright. Well, maybe next time I'll just think of some questions for you to answer. Alright, thank you.